Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Being an artist, I'm always looking for inspiration. And in today's video, I'll show you how I work to get inspired and get ideas for my painting. The painting only ends here. It starts up here. I'm SLÅR and let's get started. In my world, the word inspiration is used about an artist's ability to get ideas. It's sort of a brain starter, and when you are inspired, your brain is boosted. Being a painter, I spend a lot of effort and time on generating ideas, pulling them out of my head and spreading them on a canvas. You know, nothing happens before you stand in front of the easel and dip your brush in paint. If you're just going to sit down and wait for inspiration to come, chances are you will have to sit for a very long time. To gain inspiration, you will have to show up and do the hard work. For me, inspiration always occurs as some kind of reaction on an experience I've had. However, you cannot control what kind of inspiration you get. You can only control what kind of experience you have. I seek and get inspiration in many ways. Often I just start to paint on a small format, sort of without knowing what I'm doing. I just follow the brush, so to say. And after a while, the inspiration and ideas will come to me as a reaction on what I'm doing on the canvas. The advantage of using small formats is that, in opposed to the one you see behind me, is that you can actually change the whole thing in a couple of minutes. Sometimes the small paintings end up in finished works, but often they don't. Even though I don't finish them, they are quite important because they are the first steps in my process. I keep all these small unfinished pictures and use them again and again when I'm on the hunt for inspiration. Another thing I do a lot is that I take a break from what I'm doing. Maybe this will not boost my inspiration, but it will enable me to maintain it for a longer period of time. When I break, I go for a walk, I cook, I eat, I sleep, and often I play my piano. And when the break is over, I'm refreshed, I'm a new position, I can see new opportunities and gain new inspiration to continue working on the painting. When I get an idea, I consume it. I bend it, twist it, as long as it makes sense. And when I'm finished with it, I get another one, and so on. The idea itself is not important. What's important is the painting. That's the goal of it all. In this video, I'll show you how I get inspired to 4 of my paintings. And the first one is this one. The Danish title is Udsigt, which means something like looking up. The idea behind this painting came to me while I went for a walk in the forest. The forest is a perfect place for inspiration because it's so full of interesting forms, lines and colors. Even though I wasn't on the lookout for inspiration, all of a sudden it was there. I looked up into the sky through the treetops and I saw the blue color of the sky sparkling between the dark branches and the many green colors of the leaves. It was very complex and I was struck by its beauty. So I thought, wow, there's my next painting. I hurried back home and decided on the size of the picture. In this case, it was 80 times 80 centimeters, which is a very good size for a painting, I think. The first step was to capture the mood of the forest and roughly find the colors to use for the painting. I started in wet, as I often do, where I can sketch quickly. And then I slowly refined the lines and shapes of the image to remove what was not essential for the image. You can say that I'm excavating the idea of the painting, and in the end, what is left on the canvas is the image I want. My first thought was to make the beautiful blue sky the main component of the painting. I would use my beloved blue indigo and mix it with titanium white. However, during the process, it took up less and less space. The many vibrating colors of green were sweeping across the canvas, taking up more and more space and slowly pressing the sky to the background. In the end, I'm very satisfied with this composition and the painting itself. It's sort of delicious. It has a clear center, which is more detailed than the rest of the image. The colors are rich, not quite as they look in reality, and also I have deliberately deselected the natural shapes of leaves to draw the impression away from a more realistic look. In this way, I painted the atmosphere in the forest, the sense of it all, and not the forest itself, like I would have gotten if I have taken a photograph. And that's the way I want it. Ideas and inspiration were used to paint, in my opinion, a good painting. This painting is sold and live on a wall not far from where I live. I really like from time to time to revisit my old paintings, just to keep an eye on them and see that they behave nicely. This picture is an example of how an idea is given to me without having to work for it. When this happens, enjoy it as a present. This image was painted for an exhibition with the theme erosion. I had no particular relationship with that word, and sometimes it's quite fun and challenging to start from scratch. I had to look actively to find inspiration. In many ways, it's nice to get a word. It's not visual, and erosion means that something is breaking down something else over time. Age is the main factor, and I decided to concentrate on the marks of time. My thoughts circled around the culture we have today. It's a youth culture. Being young is a value of itself, and it's not that attractive to be old, said the old guy. In my view, that's a shame. And when I look around, I find many examples of how the passage of time is very interesting and carry great beauty. To be honest, getting old is not always attractive. But in this painting, I decided to concentrate on the beauty of age. I gave the picture the Danish title "STRANDING." It's something getting stuck on a reef. In English, the title would be "Stranded" or something like that. The size of the painting was not very big, 60 times 60 centimeters. I find this size right for intimacy. I live close to a military construction. It's a fort with thick concrete walls, half built into the ground. The building is run down and has not been maintained for many years. Therefore, everything is now covered by moss and plants, and it has collapsed several places. But even though it's shabby and eroded, it's still standing, and it holds a certain charm and brutal beauty. I explored the building using my camera, and I found it surprisingly inspirational. It sometimes happens to me that I can start painting inside my head and that I can get far into the expression before I actually start painting outside my head. Then I have to spend some time synchronizing my images, which can be a bit frustrating. I took this photo and hung it up in my studio. I was inspired by the colors and the shape of the many cracks and furrows. It also inspired me that the fort had a history, not a dramatic one, but nevertheless it had been the setting of many people's lives for many years. Despite the many cracks and damages, the fort was still very much alive, and I really felt how the fort's history set a hook in me as I walked around and photographed. When I walk like this, looking for inspiration, it's important to boost the senses, to get it all. I really took home an interesting experience, and that was exactly what I needed to start the painting. So the inspiration for this painting didn't come easy. I had to work for it. The third example is this relatively big painting, 90 times 120 centimeters. The painting was part of an exhibition with the theme High Tides. Today we talk a lot about global warming and how the seas are rising. It's quite scary. I live in Denmark, which is a small, fairly flat country with an extremely long coastline. Most of us are closely connected to the sea no matter where we come from in the country. When there's a storm and the sea washes over the coasts, it's something the whole country is talking about. There are smaller floods several times a year, but rarely big ones. However, the big ones are remembered by markers on poles around the country, showing how high the water level was at the time. We call these poles stormflodspæle, meaning something like storm surge poles, and that became the title of my painting. All of them are quite different. I was of course shocked to see how high the water level had been and how little control we have once a storm is coming. As I said before, I feel completely free to choose in which direction I would like to use the original inspiration for the painting. In this case, it occurred to me that the story of a lot of water out of control is a very sad story because that contains a lot of misfortune and destruction. I didn't want my painting to become like a news story telling directly what happened, like a documentary. That was not the kind of painting I would like to make. So I choose to focus mainly on two things. First of all, I see a great beauty in the human ability to survive in critical situations, to rise and to continue life actually no matter what happens. And the other element was the mighty forces of nature. I find the sea very interesting and a great source to inspiration. And I found a timeline in the motion of the waves, and also I used the colors of the sea, and I found sort of a dramatic angle into the painting. I ended up with this. This painting was sold at the exhibition, so I can't paint on it anymore. I'm however very happy with this painting as it is. This last example is a painting I was asked to do. I was to make my own version of an existing painting. I was to make a paraphrase. I never tried that before, and this was a new challenge for me, so of course I accepted. Paraphrasing over another work is inspiring in a different way than the previous three examples. Of course, you can still relate freely to the original, but too much freedom will ruin the idea of paraphrasing. It's kind of the same if you are painting a portrait of a person. You can of course choose to relate freely to the model, but if you don't recognize the person, it's not really a portrait. My painting must essentially look like the one the paraphrase was based on. I didn't know the artist Dalbo, but he had painted a fine romantic picture of a Danish landscape with an idyllic farm as the main motif. This kind of painting is very common in Denmark. To sum up here in the end, sometimes you're lucky. The inspiration will come to you for free. You get it as a present. Enjoy it. But often, if it doesn't come, you need to work, and sometimes you need to work hard. As inspiration basically is a reaction of some kind of experience, you cannot control what the inspiration will be. The only thing you can control is what you experience. Inspiration does not come with a guarantee for quality. Maybe it's bad ideas you get. Then you must work harder. And if it's still no good, you'll maybe have to start all over, which can be quite frustrating. When I find inspiration, it's crucial to me to take it in, open up and use it for something. I need to act on the impulse quite quickly. I will lose the idea. It will leave me and maybe contact another artist, and maybe this guy will paint a fantastic painting. So Good luck with your inspiration. Don't give up. Inspiration is all over and it's there all the time. In the end, you will succeed. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in my next video. Thank you for watching.